In the quiet valley known as Willow Hollow, two neighboring farms stand side by side, separated only by a ridge of cedar trees and a winding footpath worn smooth by years of friendship. On one farm live three dogs whose spirits are as different as their colors. Hunter, a dark brown Chesapeake Bay Retriever with steady amber eyes. Indy, a tan lab husky mix with black-tipped ears and a heart full of joyful chaos. And Emmi, a deadgrass Chesapeake Bay Retriever girl with warm amber eyes and a softness toward the world that shines like morning sun. On the neighboring farm lives a very different family, the guardian dogs of Willow Hollow Farm. There is Bear, the Anatolian shepherd, the massive and seasoned leader whose strength is matched only by his quiet wisdom. Beside him are Belle, energetic and bold. Luna, the silent night watcher. Tess, the swift and tireless perimeter runner. Duke, the wise elder, whose scars carry the stories of storms long past. And Belle, the youngest trainee, eager and brave as dawn. Together, these two farms form the heart of the valley. Two families, two mamas, and a circle of dogs who share trails, chores, memories, and the bond that grows from living close to the land. But Willow Hollow is not untouched by danger, and on one summer day, when a massive grizzly wandered into the valley, the peace of both farms was threatened. What followed became one of the most unforgettable events in Willow Hollow's history, a story of fear, courage, unity, and the powerful promise that family, in all its forms, protects its own. Retrievers, especially Chesapeakes, can be quite protective, but they were no match for a grizzly. This is that story, told not from the viewpoint of the human, but from the eyes of Emmi, the Chessie.
I always say you can smell a story before you ever see it. On our side of Willow Hollow, the breeze always carries hints of river water, pine bark, and the warm, comforting scent of our mama's coffee drifting from the farmhouse porch. And on the other side, Bear's side, you can smell the hay fields, the old barnwood, and the strong, steady presence of the guardian dogs who keep that whole place safe. We're neighbors, but more than that, we're friends. My name is Emmi, a stunning deadgrass, blonde, colored Chesapeake Bay Retriever with large, intense amber eyes. I live with my brothers, Indy, a tan lab husky mix with a black nose and black on the tip of his ears and tail, and very large, intense brown eyes. Hunter, a dark brown Chesapeake Bay Retriever with large, intense amber eyes. We live with our mama in a cozy little farmhouse tucked just below the ridge. And just across that ridge, if you follow the dirt trail through the cedar trees, you'll find Willow Hollow Farm, home to the greatest protectors this valley has ever known, the guardian dogs. I'd heard tales of them long before I ever met them. Tales whispered by wind and creek and the animals who call this place home. Names spoken with respect. Bear, Beau, Luna, Tess, Duke, Belle. It wasn't until our families became close, sharing fences, trails, shores, and the everyday pieces of a country life, that I finally understood why the entire hollow trusted them. They didn't just guard the farm. They guarded everyone in it.
It was early spring, and the mud still held the cold memory of winter. Indy and I were racing the wind down the slope, with Hunter trotting behind us like he was the sheriff of the whole county. Mama called after us. She always does, even though she knows we'll stay close. We reached the fence line, and that's when we saw him. Bear, the massive guardian himself, a mountain of muscle and fur sitting in absolute stillness beside a gate. His posture perfect, his head held high, his eyes deep and knowing, like he could see the entire ridge, the valley below, and the future all at once. Beside him stood Beau, the second in command, vibrating with excitement, Luna, positioned near the henhouse, silent and observant, Tess, trotting the fence line like a sentry, Duke, wise and calm with years of battle experience, and Belle, still young but eager, bouncing softly with her tail wagging. Hunter stopped first. Indy skidded to a halt. I bumped into him because I wasn't watching where I was going. Bear turned his massive head toward us, and his voice rumbled like distant thunder. "New neighbors," he said. Hunter puffed his chest. Indy lifted his head proudly. I tried not to look like a pup, meaning that heroes from all my bedtime stories. Bear walked up to the fence. He didn't growl, didn't posture. He simply offered the quiet greeting of someone who knows his strength and doesn't need to prove it. "You're safe here," he told us. And from that moment forward, we were part of the Hollow, one big family stretched across 2 farms. We played together, hiked together, patrolled the ridge, shared duck eggs from the farm and venison bones from our freezer. And every night, as the sun dipped behind the trees, I could see the silhouettes of the guardian dogs making their rounds, protecting Willow Hollow, protecting us all. But no matter how safe you feel, danger can still come prowling. And on one warm summer morning, it did.
Summer in Willow Hollow always feels like a song the earth hums softly. Warm winds, tall grass, fresh berry scent drifting from the hedges, Indy disappearing into the meadow like a fox, while his black-tipped ears bounce above the stalks, Mama laughing from the porch, sipping her morning coffee. Hunter marches the yard like he owns it, his body moving with confidence, tail high, amber eyes always scanning. He acts like the sheriff of our entire valley. And me? I'm Emmi. I love sunshine. I love rolling in the meadow. I love the creek when it sparkles like liquid sky. But that morning, something felt wrong. A strange stillness lay across the field. A hush, a prickle of cold that didn't belong to summer. My paws tingled. My heartbeat stuttered. Something whispered deep inside me, "Emmi, go inside." But Indy was already racing toward the creek, splashing and laughing the whole way in that goofy, stunningly detailed anthropomorphic tan lab husky mix of his. "Come on, Emmi, bet you can't beat me." I chased after him, Hunter following at a slower, watchful trot. We were halfway across the fields when I froze. My nose twitched, my ears rose. A scent drifted across the breeze, a scent so powerful, so wild, so wrong that my heart nearly stopped. Hunter sniffed, and his entire body stiffened. Indy didn't notice. He bounded into the creek with a splash, but I couldn't move. The air smelled of rot, muscle, terrain, dominance, predator. Hunter's voice dropped into a growl so low it rattled in his chest. "Emmi," he said quietly, "stay behind me." I swallowed hard. "What is it?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stared into the dark tree line. Then we heard it. A heavy branch, cracking. Slow, deliberate. Too heavy for deer, too steady for elk, too bold for coyotes. Indy finally noticed our tension. He lifted his head, water dripping from his muzzle. "Guys, what's going on?" Then the wind shifted, and I smelled it completely. Not Bear, not any farm dog, not any creature that belonged in our peaceful hollow. The scent was unmistakable. Hunter bared his teeth, fur bristling. He said,
A grizzly. My breath caught. Indy's eyes widened, Hunter's posture locked into battle mode. But by then, we were too late. The forest erupted. A massive grizzly burst through the brush, fur dark and matted, shoulders towering above us, claws long as knives. It moved like thunder given shape, like a storm that had learned to walk. The grizzly's eyes burned with hunger, challenge, and something ancient. Indy yelped and stumbled backward. Hunter shoved himself in front of me. But the grizzly wasn't looking at him. It was staring straight at me. The smaller one, the easier one, the one separated for just a moment. The grizzly reared back and roared. The sound cracked the sky. Hunter snarled and launched himself at the grizzly's flank. Indy lunged at its shoulder with everything he had. Their bravery was incredible. But the grizzly didn't care. It swatted Hunter off like he was nothing. Hunter hit the ground hard. It tossed Indy aside with a flick of its shoulder. Indy rolled across the creek bed, gasping. I screamed their names, legs shaking, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. The grizzly took a massive step toward me. I backed away, paws slipping in the dirt. Its growl rumbled low and deep, like it was promising something terrible. I tried to run, but the grizzly lunged forward, claws tearing the earth. I had no chance. And then a sound split the air. A roar, but not from the grizzly. A roar filled with fury, authority, power, protection. Enough! The entire forest shook. I turned, and my breath caught. Charging through the trees with unstoppable force was Bear. Not the grizzly, not the danger. Bear, the massive guardian dog, leader of Willow Hollow Farm. Beside him came his full team. Bo, fast as lightning. Luna, silent but fierce. Tess, sprinting the perimeter with precision. Duke, old, wise, heavy-footed and fearless. Belle, young but brave, keeping pace with desperate courage. They moved like a unit, like one creature, like the earth itself had risen and formed an army. And they were running straight toward me. The grizzly whirled around, but it immediately realized this fight wasn't like swatting away 3 family dogs at a creek. This was something far, far older. Guardians versus Grizzly. Time did a strange thing the moment the grizzly turned toward Bear and his guardian team. It stretched, thickened, pulled everything into slow motion, like the forest itself was holding its breath to witness what was about to happen. The grizzly lowered its head. Bear lowered his. 2 titans. 2 forces of nature. 2 protectors, but only one defending his home. Bear didn't bark. He didn't growl. He didn't hesitate. He charged. A blur of muscle and instinct, his paws thundered across the ground so hard the earth trembled beneath me. Bo followed in a hot streak of golden fire, teeth bared, ears pinned back. Luna darted to the left, positioning herself with perfect precision. Tess streaked to the right, circling like lightning. Duke trudged forward with slow, terrifying purpose. Belle, though clearly frightened, held her line, her young heart burning with loyalty. The grizzly roared, a deafening explosion of fury, and lunged toward Bear, towering above him, claws extended in a flash of deadly silver. But Bear did not slow. He met that beast head on. The collision was like 2 worlds crashing together. Dust flew, leaves exploded outward, the ground vibrated beneath us. Bear slammed into the grizzly's chest with all his weight. The grizzly staggered, snarling in shock. Bo leapt upward and caught the grizzly's flank in a flash of teeth. Luna sprang at its other side, jaws snapping with precision like a wolf born from moonlight. Tess circled behind, nipping, distracting, keeping the grizzly moving in the exact direction Bear wanted. Duke moved last, but when he struck, it was like the strike of an earthquake. He clamped his jaws around the grizzly's foreleg, anchoring that monstrous limb to the ground. The grizzly roared as if the mountains heard it. But Bear was relentless. He lunged again, clamping down on the grizzly's neck, using his entire body to drag the beast off balance. Bo leapt higher, going for the shoulder again and again. Belle, trembling but brave, ran interference, barking and snapping to draw the grizzly's fury away from me. I watched through shaking legs, breath trapped in my chest. I had never seen anything like this. This wasn't a skirmish. This wasn't 3 house dogs trying to defend a friend. This was a war. Hunter groaned behind me, slowly pushing himself up. His amber eyes widened, horrified and awed all at once. Bear, he's fighting a full-grown grizzly. Indy dragged himself beside me, sides heaving, water dripping from his tan coat. We didn't stand a chance. He was right. None of us, even together, had stood a chance. But the Guardians? They were built for this.
The grizzly slammed its paw into the earth, shaking Duke loose. Duke rolled, got up, shook once, and re-engaged without hesitation. The grizzly twisted and managed to swipe Bo across the shoulder. Bo yelped, staggered, then lunged back in with even more fury. Belle bravely darted in to pull the grizzly's attention away from Bo, snapping at its hind leg. Tess, the fastest and sharpest of the runners, kept hitting the grizzly's ankles, forcing it to shift, stumble, misstep. Luna stayed near Bear, helping him anchor the main assault. And Bear fought like every legend I had ever heard about him was true. His jaws clamped down again and again. His massive paws struck like battering rams. His growls shook the forest floor. He wasn't fighting just to win. He was fighting to protect family. Because that's who we were. Neighbors, yes. Friends, yes. But more than that, family of Willow Hollow. The grizzly, growing desperate, reared up again, this time higher, angrier, bloodied, furious at the pack tearing into it from every direction. It bellowed a sound that made my ears flatten. Bear barked an order, a single hard crack of sound that snapped the team into action. Tess and Belle lunged simultaneously at the grizzly's legs. Bo struck from behind with a powerful crunch. Luna launched at its shoulder. Duke surged forward and clamped onto the other paw. And Bear charged straight up the middle, leaped and slammed the grizzly down with all the force in his enormous body. The grizzly hit the ground with a bone-rattling thud. Bear seized the moment. He lunged for the grizzly's throat, not to kill, but to end the fight. His jaws clamped down, not cruelly, but with unshakable dominance. The forest went silent. The grizzly froze, chest heaving, eyes wide, muscles trembling beneath the weight of the guardian pack. Everything, every leaf, every breeze, every beam of light through the trees seemed to hold still. After a long moment, Bear growled low and commanding, "Leave this hollow." The defeated grizzly let out a broken whine, a sound I never thought could come from something so powerful.
and scrabbled to its feet, stumbling, limping, then crashing back toward the forest shadows from where it came. The danger was gone, but the forest did not breathe again until Bear did.
Bear turned first toward me. His deep eyes softened. "You are safe now." My legs gave out. I collapsed into the tall grass and sobbed, a sound half bark, half wail, half relief wrapped in trembling. Hunter rushed to my side, nuzzling me, checking me for injuries. Indy pressed his forehead to mine, shaking nearly as hard as I was. Belle trotted over, whining softly, licking my cheek. Luna checked Hunter and Indy with warm, gentle nudges. Beau winced at his wound but grinned proudly. Tess paced the perimeter, making absolutely sure the Grizzly wasn't returning. Duke sat heavily but contentedly, shoulders rising and falling in slow breaths. And Bear lowered his massive head and brushed mine with his nose. "Willow Hollow watches over its own," he said. I sobbed harder. We lived here. We were neighbors. But more than that, we were family.
It took a long moment before I could breathe normally again. My body shook so hard the grass beneath me trembled. Hunter kept touching his forehead to mine, whispering, "You're okay, Emmi. You're okay, we've got you," over and over in that deep, steady voice he only uses when he's trying not to cry. Indy was less subtle. He wrapped his front legs around me like a pup hugging a stuffed toy and sobbed right into my shoulder. "Emmi, I thought you were... His words dissolved into wet sniffles. Luna pressed her nose against Indy's back, comforting him with soft, rhythmic nuzzles. Belle sat close to me, her ears drooping, her little tail thumping gently against the ground whenever I managed to take a steady breath. Beau stood guard over all of us, chest still heaving from adrenaline and pain. Tess zigzagged the perimeter, hyper-alert, making absolutely sure the Grizzly was truly gone. Duke settled into a low sit beside Bear, head lowered, his breath coming slow and steady. But Bear stayed right beside me. He didn't say anything at first. His enormous frame blocked the sun from my eyes, sheltering me like a wall of strength and warmth. His breath rumbled softly, steady enough to calm the ground beneath my paws. Finally, he spoke. "You survived," he said, his voice deep as winter earth. "You fought, and you held on." Bear wasn't the kind of guardian who praised often, but when he did, it felt like the wind itself bowed. I swallowed hard. I couldn't have... He dipped his head. "We are neighbors. We are guardians. We protect Willow Hollow together." My amber eyes welled again. Even Duke looked touched. A distant shout floated over the hill. "Hunter! Indy! Emmi!" Our mama. My heart jolted. Hunter's ears shot up. Indy spun so fast he tripped over his own paws. Even Bear turned his head with solemn recognition. Mama tore down the slope like lightning, boots pounding the earth, hair wild, coat flapping. Her face was pure fear, struck through with desperate love. "Emmi, my baby, oh my sweet girl." She hit her knees before she even reached me, skidding into the grass and sweeping her arms around my neck. Her hands flew over my body, checking, petting, trembling. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Emmi, what happened? Indy, Hunter, oh my goodness." Hunter pressed against her side. Indy collapsed fully into her lap, sobbing so hard his whole body shook. Mama held all three of us at once, whispering thank yous to God for our guardian friends. Then she looked up and saw them. Bear, Bo, Luna, Tess, Duke, Belle. Every guardian dog stood in a loose circle around us, battle-worn but proud, like a living shield. Mama gasped, hand pressed to her heart. "Oh, Bear! Oh, my Lord! You saved them!" Bear dipped his head with quiet humility. Bo puffed his chest. Belle wagged nervously. Tess stood tall. Luna's gaze softened. Duke nodded once in silent confirmation. "Mama!" a voice called from behind them. Farm Mama, the guardian dog's human, was running down the hill with a medical bag slung over her shoulder. She stopped short when she reached Bear, breath catching at the sight of the scratches, the blood, the torn patches of fur. "Oh, baby! Oh, my brave boy!" she breathed, placing her forehead gently to Bear's. Then she whirled toward us. "Did the grizzly hurt the pups?" "No," Bear rumbled. "They are shaken, but alive." Mama's tears nearly started again. Indy sniffled loudly. "It almost got Emmi." Farm Mama's face hardened, but not with anger, with resolve. "Let's get everyone checked," she said, kneeling beside me.
Hunter had bruises and a few cuts. Indy had a gash on his shoulder and a limp. I had the smallest scratches, but the deepest tremble. Farm Mama and Mama worked together, cleaning us, checking our vitals, soothing us with soft voices and warm hands. The guardians received their own care. Bo had a long claw swipe across his shoulder. Duke had deep teeth marks on his leg. Belle had small cuts on her flank from dodging too close. Luna had a scratch beneath her eye. Tess had raw pads from circling endlessly. Bear had the worst wounds, bite marks on his neck, shoulder, and back. But Bear stood like a mountain while they cleaned his wounds. Mama's voice shook as she dabbed at his neck. "You saved my girl. You saved all my babies." Bear closed his eyes with a soft rumble that almost sounded like, "Always." After the field was cleared and everyone bandaged, both families walked back to the farms together. Me between Hunter and Indy. Mama's hand resting on my back the whole time. Bear led the way, limping only slightly. Duke and Bo flanked him like generals. Tess ran the perimeter. Luna walked near Farm Mama. Belle stayed close to me, still trembling but braver than she knew. As we reached the fork where the two properties met, both mamas stopped. Farm Mama placed a hand on Mama's shoulder. "We watch out for each other," she said softly. "That's what neighbors do." Mama nodded, tears shining again. "I can never repay what your dogs did today." Farm Mama smiled faintly. "We don't need to. We're family here." Bear lifted his head proudly despite the pain stitched across his great body. Hunter, Indy, and I looked at him the way pups look at heroes. Because that's exactly what he was. Back home, Mama didn't let me out of her sight, not even for a second. She made us soft beds in the living room, kept the lights low, and whispered gentle things as she tended our wounds again. Hunter slept beside me. Indy cuddled tightly against my other side. Mama sat on the floor beside us, one hand resting on my paw. But even as sleep tugged at my eyes, a shadow of fear lingered. The moment when the grizzly had looked at me, like I was prey,
seared itself into my memory. I shivered. Hunter noticed and pressed closer, warm and steady. "You're safe, Emmi. Bear wouldn't let anything happen to you." Indy nodded vigorously. "The guardians will always come, always." I closed my eyes, trying to breathe past the memory, trying to believe them.
What I didn't know, not until the next morning, was that Bear stayed at the ridge all night. Even injured, even exhausted, he had stood guard at the border of our property, facing the forest with unbroken attention. He didn't rest. He didn't waver. He didn't leave until dawn broke across Willow Hollow. Hunter saw him first through the window. "There," he whispered. "He's watching." Indy pressed in beside him. "He didn't go home." I came up beside them slowly, my chest tight. And there he was, Bear, the Titan, the guardian of guardians, standing tall, battered but unbowed, watching our home until the sun rose. My fear melted. He had protected me yesterday. He was protecting me still, and Willow Hollow felt safe again.
The next morning, the sun rose slow and golden over Willow Hollow, like it knew the valley had survived something profound. Light spilled across the fields, catching the dew on the grass and the steam rising from Mama's coffee cup. Hunter, Indy, and I watched the ridge through the window, and Bear stood there, still, like a statue carved from mountain stone. He didn't sleep. He didn't rest. He didn't leave. He watched. For us. Indy sighed. "We should go to him." Hunter nodded. "We owe him thanks." I swallowed hard. The day before was still clawing around my chest. The image of the massive grizzly charging me, the way its roar cracked the air, the way the world narrowed to nothing but teeth and fear. But when I looked at Bear, battered and proud, a warmth flickered inside me. He saved me, and he's still saving me. We didn't need permission. We ran.
Mama stepped out onto the porch as we sprinted across the yard. "Stay close," she called, but her voice softened when she saw where we were heading. "Tell Bear I said thank you." We bounded up the hill, breath puffing in small clouds. The tall grass parted around us. The morning breeze carried scents of pine, soil, and the faint remnants of yesterday's battle. As we approached the ridge, Bear finally turned his head. He looked tired, so tired, but his eyes lit with something warm and steady. "Good morning," he rumbled. Hunter dipped his head respectfully. "You guarded us all night." Bear didn't argue. "The Grizzly may return." Indy stepped forward, his ears drooping. "But you're hurt." Bear shrugged off the concern like wind brushing old bark. "A guardian protects what must be protected." My heart tightened. I stepped forward on trembling paws. "Bear," I whispered. He lowered his great head until his forehead touched mine, his breath warm and steady. "You are safe now, Emmi." No words were big enough for what I wanted to say. Gratitude swelled inside me like a rising river. "Bear, you saved my life." He closed his eyes. "We saved Willow Hollow, and you are part of Willow Hollow." I pressed my head into his fur, letting the tears finally fall. Bear didn't move. He simply let me lean against him until the world steadied again.
Farm Mama arrived on the ridge with fresh bandages wrapped around her wrist and a worried frown on her brow. "Oh, there you are," she called. "Come on then, you three. The rest of the guardians are awake and want to see you." Indy perked up immediately. "Bo is awake?" "And Tess?" Hunter's tail wagged. "And Belle?" I asked softly. Farm Mama smiled. "All of them are, and they're waiting." Bear rose to his feet, with a stiff grunt he tried to hide, and led the way down the path to Willow Hollow Farm. The trail wound through cedar trees and opened into the vast pasture dotted with barns, coops, and fences. And there they were, Bo, limping but grinning proudly, Luna, lying calmly in the shade, her eyes warm, Tess, running short, fast laps despite her bandaged paws, Duke, regal and steady, tail thumping once when he saw us, Belle, tail wagging so hard she nearly spun in circles. As soon as we reached them, Belle bounded to my side. "Emmi, are you okay? I tried to distract the grizzly and—" "You were so brave," I told her, licking her cheek. "You helped save me." Belle stood a little taller. Bo nudged Indy. "Saw you trying to bite that grizzly's backside. Bold choice, kid." Indy puffed up proudly. I meant to do that." Hunter approached Duke. "Thank you," he said quietly. Duke dipped his old head. "We protect the valley together." Luna sniffed me gently. "No nightmares?" I blinked. "How did you—" She smiled. "I had them too once." Tess circled me once, fast, then stopped. "You're safe. The forest knows not to cross Willow Hollow now." Everyone chuckled softly. But then Bear stepped forward, calling the gathering to quiet. Bear stood tall, still injured, still tired, but emanating authority like a river emanates current. "Yesterday," he said, "the valley faced danger greater than any in years. The grizzly could have taken one of ours." His gaze moved across me, Hunter, Indy, "but you fought, and you survived, and you held together." Hunter bowed his head. Indy did too. I trembled, but stood straight. "And because of that," Bear continued, "we honor you today. You defended Willow Hollow with courage. And so—" He looked at Duke, then Bo, then Luna, Tess, Belle. One by one they nodded. Bear turned back to us. "We name you three as honorary junior guardians of Willow Hollow Farm." My breath caught. Andy gasped. "Us?" Hunter's eyes widened with pride and disbelief. Bear leaned down and touched his forehead to ours in turn. "To Hunter," he said, "for bravery that burns like fire." Hunter's chest swelled. "To Indy," he said next, "for heart that never falters." Indy wagged his tail so fast he wobbled. "And to Emmi," he finished, voice softening, "for courage born from love." My eyes stung. Belle stepped forward and placed a small sunflower petal at my paws, a token of acceptance. Luna nudged the petal gently toward me. "This means you're one of us now." Hunter stood taller. Indy beamed. And I felt something shift inside me. Not fear anymore. Something stronger, warmer, truer. Family. Farm Mama returned with a huge pot of stew for the humans and baked chicken scraps for the dogs. Mama arrived too, carrying bags of treats and leftover turkey she'd made earlier in the week. All of us, 2 families, 2 farms, ate together under the big willow tree. Laughing, talking, healing. Bo told the story of the battle in dramatic detail, adding parts that probably weren't exactly true, like, "And then Tess bit the grizzly in half." Tess rolled her eyes. "I nipped its ankle once, Bo." Belle stayed glued to my side, asking questions about how it felt to be chased by a grizzly, how fast it was, how I felt now. Hunter stayed close too, protective as ever. Indy ate 4 pieces of chicken until Mama cut him off. Bear didn't speak much, but every time I caught his eye, he gave a soft nod, a guardian's nod, a promise. After the meal, when most of the guardians were napping in the grass, I approached Bear quietly. He opened one eye. "Emmi." I sat beside him. "Bear, I don't know how to say this right, but I'll try." He tilted his head. "You didn't just save me. You saved Hunter. You saved Indy. You saved Mama's heart." I swallowed tightly. "You saved our whole family." Bear took a slow breath. "You are part of the valley," he said, "part of its life, part of its song, and no one, no grizzly, no danger, takes a piece of Willow Hollow from under our watch." My throat tightened. "I will always be grateful." He looked at me for a long moment. "Courage," he said finally, "is not the absence of fear. It is standing even when fear pulls you down." I leaned gently against his massive shoulder. "Will the grizzly come back?" I whispered. "Not here," Bear rumbled. "Not now that it knows this valley has guardians." I let out a slow breath. He was right. In the days that followed, our families set up a shared patrol route between the farms. Hunter, Indy, and I walked the ridge each morning, checking the fence lines, sniffing the wind. Bo trained Indy to recognize predator scents. Luna taught Hunter how to listen for wrong forest sounds. Belle and I practiced coordination moves. Hers were still messy, mine were still nervous, but together we got better. Tess taught all of us her zigzag escape patterns. Duke told quiet stories of bravery and storms long before we were born. And Bear always walked ahead, leading, listening, watching, not just for danger, but for us, the junior guardians of Willow Hollow. On the 7th evening, when the sun set in a blaze of gold over the valley, Bear climbed to the highest hill. I followed. We sat side by side, watching the shadows stretch across the meadow. "You are brave, Emmi," he said finally, "and you are not alone." My heart warmed. I looked over our valley, the farms, the animals, the dogs who guarded every corner of it. My family, Hunter, Indy, Mama, and now the guardians too. "I won't be afraid anymore," I whispered. Bear turned his great head toward me. "You may still feel fear, but it will never own you again." We watched the last sliver of sunlight slip behind the ridge. And in that moment, with the breeze gentle and the hollow glowing, I understood something I hadn't known until now. Willow Hollow is more than land, more than fields, more than homes. It is a promise that we protect each other, a promise that we stand together, a promise that no one is ever alone. And as long as Bear and his guardians walk this valley, and as long as Hunter, Indy, and I stand beside them, the promise will hold forever.
And that's the story of how Bear and the guardian dogs of Willow Hollow saved the valley, and how 3 family dogs, Hunter, Indy, and Emmi, became more connected than ever to the land they call home. 2 farms, 2 families, 1 promise. In Willow Hollow, we protect each other. No one stands alone. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more adventures from Willow Hollow and beyond. And as always, stay safe, stay kind, and we'll see you in the next story.